Thank you very much, Administrator Shaw. I wanted to start with a few questions here, one on land grabbing and the lack of enforceable property rights and title transfer in developing nations. And that acts as a significant barrier to sustainable developments and to long-term growth. And we have seen this up close in terms of the results in Tunisia and in Egypt. We've seen the shock waves created. It's a source of tremendous political and social instability. In December, there was an insightful article, Lessons from the Past, Securing Land Rights in the Wake of Typhoon Haiyan. And the article quoted a USAID official saying that unequal access to land is a central issue that cuts across both rural and urban sectors in the Philippines. Unequal access to land is a significant issue that occurs worldwide. We know of significant land grabbing that is occurring and has occurred for some years now in Cambodia and in China and in Peru. Administrator Shaw, what is USAID doing to urge the government of the Philippines to address the issue of land grabbing? And most importantly, what about the rampant corruption that at a local level that allows land grabbing to occur? I have heard over and over again that the Philippines is making progress on fighting corruption. However, even Philippine anti-corruption officials will admit that corruption in this area, in terms of land grabbing, that is an ongoing tragedy. With all of the assistance funding that we're providing to Manila, isn't it true and isn't it time that USAID and the administration focus on this issue given what's at stake? And I've asked for 3 years now. I've tried to work to make this a priority with USAID. I've received emphatic support verbally. 3 years later, after returning, I see no progress. So will this be the year where we finally make a difference?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It will. We believe this is a critical issue. As I have seen personally in efforts where I handed out land titles to Colombian farmers who were returning to their farms after conflict that has lasted, as you know, decades, the power of respecting property rights, providing title, giving people the basis to seek financing to invest in their own future is an extraordinarily powerful strategy to reduce poverty and extreme poverty. In the Philippines, 46% of the 24.2 million parcels are titled, and even amongst those, a high degree of corruption and ineffective respect for those titles hamper the ability of many poor families to secure their future. I'm thrilled that we've been working together on this. I want to say thank you for your specific visits to the country and work with our program. We can commit today to use FY14 resources to engage an effort that will help both work with the government on corruption issues, enforcement, community policing, and support for their land management office, as well as with local communities to help address this challenge.
Thank you. The other question I was going to ask you is, last week this committee held a hearing on women and education, followed by a markup on our legislation, the Malala Yousafzai Scholarship Act. And our debate, I think, drove home a very important point, and that is education is a very powerful tool that can advance U.S. national security interests while creating more stable societies. For many years now, I've expressed concerns about the rise of these Deobandi schools. I've made 3 trips to Pakistan to urge the government there to close them. They really prey upon the disenfranchised, and they're breeding radicalism. And I have visited schools that have later been destroyed by the Taliban up in the northwest frontier. I think that the Pakistani-American community here in the United States, based on my work with them, they see how we can better coordinate efforts to promote education and private sector growth in Pakistan. They have a very real interest in making certain that this radicalization is offset. And that the education of girls is advanced. What can be done to better leverage and support investments by the Pakistani diaspora in education and in private sector development in Pakistan? And how are you safeguarding U.S. assistance against corruption inside Pakistan?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the leadership the committee's shown, especially in taking forward the legacy that Malala Yousafzai has created by using her voice and the power of her moral example to advocate for this issue. USAID has supported a large-scale program in Pakistan on education with a specific focus on girls and early grade learning and literacy outcomes. We target reaching 3.2 million children. We have helped to reconstruct more than 1,400 schools. We've worked with federal and provincial governments in a number of the states to make sure that this issue is a priority. And we've engaged on teacher training, curricula and standards, and perhaps most importantly, the measuring of literacy outcomes through the early grade reading assessment, which USAID has pioneered and tested. We look forward to working with the Pakistani American community on this. We have new mechanisms to allow us to do that, and I think that ability to engage the diaspora community, which is something we've enhanced over the last several years, would be quite welcome to take this program to an even greater level of effectiveness.
Thank you, Administrator Shah. We will turn now to Mr. Elliot Engel of New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have